Hello, everybody, and welcome to Iron Team Gamer's first ever comic book reviews. We are going to be testing a new thing. Hopefully, you guys enjoy it. And here we go. I'm Dinoteeth, and I'll be reviewing these comic books for December 2nd, 2015. I picked up quite a few, and let's get started. First of all, I picked up Batman Beyond this week, issue number 7. And this issue kind of feels like an issue number 1 in a way. Issues 1 through 6 was the full arc that involved the big villain, um, Brother I think his name was. At the end of issue 6, he is destroyed, he's dealt with, he is dead, essentially. And that is why on the cover you see here a new dawn. So it essentially is a great jumping on point if you want to see that Batman Beyond that you love from the TV show. It's finally here. It's introducing some of the TV show villains. You get to see like the Jokers. Let me open this up and give you guys a little preview what I'm talking about here. You see some of the new suit in action. It's not Terry McGinnis. It is Tim Drake, the Red Robin. But I don't really mind. A lot of people do. You can see some of the Jokers there. So that's cool how they're incorporating the TV show characters finally into the comic, because I'm only reading this comic because I'm a huge fan of the TV show. And some of the artwork looks great, looks amazing, looks actually better than some of the stuff seen in issues 1 through 6. And it's kind of building a new plot line at the very end with Terry McGinnis' son. He's up to no good, and he's trying to find out what's going on and like what's happening with this new dawn, I guess. So if you haven't been reading the book, I don't know if this is a seller. I don't know if this is the thing to get you. But if you were interested in getting Batman Beyond, but you're like, it's on issue 7, I'm not really that kind of guy who reads issue 7 first, uh, this one could work. It is a jumping on point. You don't need to know past events other than the city used to be corrupt and now it's not. Now it's healing from what happened in issues 1 through 6. Other than that, you're pretty much set to go, and we're on the right direction to getting back into the TV show in the New 52 universe. So I'm excited about where this is going. Up next here, we've got another issue 7, Midnighter. Midnighter. Okay. Issues 1 through 5 have been up and down for me. Like, I didn't know what to expect. I'm reading Midnighter because I was a huge fan of Stormwatch, and he appeared in Grayson, the comic Grayson. And I love his character. I love what they're doing with him in the New 52. But when he got his own comic, I was elated. And issues 1 through 5, they were average. And then issue 6 came along, and at the end of issue 6, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there is a character that I've loved in the DC universe for a very long time, and they show up in this character. That person shows up in this character, and Midnighter has to fight that character. Excuse me. Um, so that's why this book, issue 7, has that fight, has that confrontation between Midnighter and this mysterious villain that I've loved for so many years, and I think is the first time he's ever been introduced in the New 52 world. Even though this is not a New 52 book, they took that name off. It's still, I call it the New 52 universe, and I believe that is the first time this character has appeared. So to have these two gods almost fight each other is amazing. So let me just show you some of the artwork. That's not going to spoil anything. Here we go. Let's start here. So here's what to expect from the artwork. There's not going to be the main villain here. The main villain happens in the first couple of pages here. As you can see, this says days later. So you're not going to see anything terrible here. It will introduce a new villain into the Midnighter arc, and that villain is, I think that shows it here. Yeah, Deadshot. So Deadshot's coming later, um, which I'm excited for. It goes back to his past with Apollo as his previous boyfriend. So Apollo's in here. Midnighter is getting a new boyfriend who's over here, who's just introduced. And yeah, if you've been reading Midnighter, don't stop reading it because obviously it's getting better and better and better and better. At the end of issue 6, carries right through to issue 7. This is one of my favorite issues of Midnighter, period. It probably is my favorite issue. Just that fight scene alone that takes place within the first, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pages, 13 pages of content of just Midnighter fighting this villain. Well, it's this is who he's fighting, but you can't really see. It's just this picture is just amazing. Like he's fighting him mentally, physically, and hopefully this page doesn't spoil who it is, but I highly recommend it. It's a great comic. It's a great art. It's great art, great story. I just feel DC is on the right track with Midnighter, and I hope it doesn't go anywhere. So that's my thoughts on that. Next up is Arkham Knight issue 11. Here's the cover. Arkham Knight issue 11, the official prequel to the Arkham Knight game. The series for this one, Arkham Knight, it's solicited as ongoing, but I know it has to end soon. Obviously, it has to catch up to the game. So far, it's been 11 issues. Still not much is happening. I love the artist. What's the artist's name here? Let's see. Reminds me a lot of Greg Capullo, who is the current artist of the ongoing Batman series. Reminds me a lot about Greg Capullo. I can't seem to find the artist. Maybe I passed it. I don't know. But as you can see, the art is very colorful. This issue does have some memorable scenes. It takes place right after issue 10, which I don't believe most Arkham Knight books do that, and they like actually continue off each other. But it takes place right after issue 10, and it does introduce Arkham Knight meeting Scarecrow for the first time, I think, which confused me because I read Arkham Knight Genesis, which is the 6-issue limited series, and it looks like they already met before. But here, it's like they're meeting each other for the first time. They're like enemies turning into friends. I'm like, I don't get this, because in Genesis, which came out prior to this book, they've already been friends, and they've been like plotting this entire time. So I guess this takes place before that. So I don't know where the hell my chronology is for the Arkham Knight series. I just know the game was great, the story was great, and this comic is kind of filling in holes. It's just not quite getting there. Yeah, it's very interesting. The ending felt unnecessary. It's like we already fought that villain before in the Arkham Knight comics. Like, we fought him a bunch of times, and to have that character back again at the end of this comic just felt repetitive and stale. But all in all, it was an okay read. Nothing impressive. I love it how they show like one panel of Riddler here making his traps, but other than that, there wasn't much to keep me going. I mean, I'm still gonna read it because I'm a fan of the name Batman, and I'm a fan of the video game Arkham Knight. But honestly, if the content continues to be just stale, I might have to let it go. I'm just waiting to see how many issues it will actually have. But yeah, all in all, just pretty average. There's nothing great about it. There's nothing bad about it. Artwork is solid. Story is solid. But other than that, I mean, it's not really doing much to stand out. And if you haven't been reading Arkham Knight, you haven't played the game, don't start here. Like, don't read the comic book. Play the game first, I would say. Or if you're interested in Arkham Knight and you want to read a comic, but this one is not for you, like you're thinking, it's $4. You're saying it's not that good of quality. Read Arkham Knight Genesis. That is a comic book, 6 issues. It's a limited series. I think it's currently on issue 4 or 5. I want to say it's almost done. That one is worth it because it's only 6 issues. It'll tell you the origin story you want for the Arkham Knight, and it'll get you straight for the game. This Arkham Knight is a prequel to the game, but it's telling you the overall story. Arkham Knight Genesis is just giving you this guy's story. So if you wanted an Arkham Knight comic to read, I'd pick that one. I read them both, so I'll give you my reviews on Arkham Knight Genesis whenever it comes out, because I do read that. But for this one, it's up to you, really. It was just okay. Let's see what we have next. Oh, here we go. Robin War Part 1 of 2. Now, don't be mistaken by the title. This is not a 2-part event. This is a crossover event that's going to cross over, I think, Detective Comics, We Are Robin, Robin Son of Batman. It's going to cross over basically every Robin book that's out there except the weekly, Batman and Robin Eternal. Anyway, this is a double issue. That's why it's got that hefty $5 price tag. And it's amazing. You don't need to know anything prior to this book. You might need to know a little history about the We Are Robin, the book that Lee Bermejo is doing. That's about it. It sets everything up right here in the first, 5 pages of the book. It sets everything up perfectly. And the reason I love this book so much, call me crazy, it reminds me a lot about Dark Knight Returns, which is my favorite comic of all time. It's just got that style to it. Like, the media is present. There's a secret or not really a secret, but there's a gang kind of like corrupting Gotham, and it's up to a hero to come out of the shadows and save the day. And I'm like, that's exactly what the Dark Knight Returns was all about. It's about the mutant gang coming back. It's about a hero coming out of retirement and saving the day. And it's about the media responding to these events. Right here, you've got the media, just how Frank Miller would have drawn it. And then later on, you've got an all-out war against the Robin gang for doing something wrong that they've done, like I said, in the first 5 pages. It's got everything you want or need. It's got everything you need to set up a perfect arc. And it would be a damn shame if they mess it up with like part 2, part 3, part 4, because this one, part 1, was so great. The art, it ties in to other comics that I don't even read. Like, there's a Gotham Academy reference here somewhere, I think. Yeah, right here, there's a Gotham Academy reference. I don't even read that book. And I still understand what's going on. Like, I get it. I get the story. I get the plot. I read We Are Robin, so I know who these characters are. You don't need to. They tell you right here. His name is Duke Thomas. It tells you his bio and everything. You're set. You are good to go. It tells you this girl's name. It gives you all the information you would ever need to understand this arc. And it's setting up to be a great arc. If you love Scott Snyder's first story, The Court of Owls, and you're slightly interested in Robin in general as a character, you get a lot of it here. You get a lot of pretty colors. You even get some of the new Batman, the Commissioner Gordon Batman, as you can see here. One of my favorite scenes is this entire page where Commissioner Gordon Batman tells Damian Wayne, "I am Batman." And then it's just Damian Wayne like, really? Really? You're Batman. It's great. It's got a lot of content. And for $5, might be a little pricey, but really you're getting 2 issues packed in one. And it's just a great setup. That is basically what you're paying for, a great setup. Nothing really happens. And that's what I love about it. Like, most comics today have action, adventure, and all that stuff crammed in one. You don't really need that if you're setting up a story arc, like a crossover event like Robin War is doing. You just need a slow burning setup that makes you want to read part 2. And part 2 can even be more setup, and then part 3 just like hammers it home. And then you keep reading part 4, part 5, and then part 6. I don't know how many parts it's going to have. I think it's going to be a 6-issue series or maybe 7. But I do know number 2 of 2 will be the finale. So part 1 is part 1. And then number 2 would be the finale, whatever issue that would be. Part 7 or part 8, whatever. So I'm excited. This one set it up perfectly. And it's got that Dark Knight Returns feel to it. And with Dark Knight 3 being released last week, there's just a lot of like Frank Miller content coming out, and it's exciting. Like, it's exciting how it's affecting this book, I would say, even though Frank Miller hasn't touched this book. I don't think you could pay him enough to touch this book, but it just has that feel, it has that style, and I love it. I really do love it. So this has a lot of potential. If you haven't picked it up and you're on the fence, like, I don't really read Robin, I don't really care about Batman, then, I mean, there's still something here. There is still something here for you. You just need to know kind of who the Court of Owls are. So try to pick up Scott Snyder's first arc, if you can. And that's it. That's all the knowledge you need to know. So if you're looking for a great Robin book, this is it. This is it right here. Just start here. Or if you're on the fence about buying it, like you saw solicitations, have no worries. It's amazing. Up next, we've got our weekly book, Batman and Robin Eternal. Now, say what you will about weekly comics. Honestly, they're trash. So I'm not going to defend it. Weekly comics are basically trash. I've had the unfortunate events of reading both DC's weekly comics that have come out, Future's End and Batman Eternal. Future's End was awful. That was, I think, 48 issues. Batman Eternal was not too far off from Future's End, with 52 issues. And I might be crazy for getting a third weekly book, but hey, I'm a Batman fan. So here we are in the 9th week of Batman and Robin Eternal. And I gotta say, it's good. It's good. It's nothing amazing. It's good. And I think what DC is doing right now, like what they're actually doing right, is two things they've changed from their weekly comics. One, this is half a year, so it's only going to be 26 issues. So saves you money, and the story has to be more confined. It's not going to be 52 issues or some crazy shit like that. It's going to be 26. They've solicited as half a year. The second thing, and this one comes with a grain of salt because we're only on issue 9. It seems like the story is more, how do I say it? The story has one storyline, like one plot, one goal, and Batman and Robin Eternal so far has been following that goal. It has the same characters from issue 1, you're following the same story from issue 1, and yes, there are new characters, there's new side plots and stuff like that, but they're not overshadowed by the main story. The main story is the meat and potatoes of this comic, and that's good. Like, for Future's End and for Batman Eternal, by issue 4, you were like, what the hell is going on? Like, who are you? Where are we? What's this? Who's that? Where am I going? What's going on? It asked too many questions. This one asks the right questions and answers them shortly afterwards. There's no, let's ask a question in issue 2 and answer it in issue 50. No, this one asks a question in issue 2 and answers it in like issue 4 or maybe issue 3 or maybe the issue right after. Like, it's great. And by the way, they gotta give props for Bane unmasked and just Bane crushing the shit out of Red Hood right there. Just amazing. So you get some flashbacks with Bruce Wayne, which is always nice. You get the main villain finally in the spotlight here. It's got a lot of potential, especially the ending. The ending. I loved it. I'm not going to spoil the last page here, so I'm not going to flip it. But the character showed at the end is one of my favorite characters in comic book history, who also hasn't been getting a lot of love. in the New 52. So basically, this week is just a lot of cameo appearances from characters I used to love a lot. So definitely gonna keep picking up this weekly book because it's it's not that bad, and you're probably not going to believe me, but that's okay. I mean, take my word with a grain of salt when I say this weekly comic is good. So far, issues 1 through 9 have been pretty solid, with maybe one or two issues in there not so good. Like, I think it was issue um, 7 or 6 that kind of like made me feel like, oh great, it's a weekly comic. But then, boom, 8 and 9, here we are. It's pretty damn good. Um, there are some complaints. Obviously, it's a weekly comic, so the art is subpar to what I'm used to, and you can see here just how many people you need to make one weekly book. It's staggering. Um, yeah, but other than that, it was worth $2.99. I mean, as soon as this book starts decreasing in quality, then that's when I will stop it. So this one isn't hanging in by a thread, but if I was to stop reading any book, it would be this one. It's so far been pretty good, but I've told myself if it stops like one or two issues of just being garbage, if it's just like new characters, new plot lines, new stuff, I told myself I'm going to stop reading it, and I will tell you guys when that happens. But so far, it is going pretty strong, and I commend it for that. So hopefully DC has learned from its mistakes. That's my review on that. Next up, we've got some Marvel stuff here. We've got Star Wars issue 13, also known as Vader Down Part 3. Now, I don't read Vader Down. I don't read Darth Vader. I read Star Wars. And as a Star Wars book, you are going to be confused as hell. You're not going to know who, in the first page, you're not going to know who these three are. You're not going to know how Luke Skywalker got shot down. Where is he? If you've been reading Star Wars up to issue 12, you're going to be so confused because this is not a Star Wars book anymore. It is part of a crossover with Darth Vader. So you have to read Darth Vader and Vader Down because this is part 3. You have to read those two prior to this to understand it, and that's a shame because I only read Star Wars. But what's given here is enjoyable. I might not know who these guys are. I might not know how they got there. It's still enjoyable. Like, I liked it. But it doesn't continue from where we left off in Star Wars 12, and I guess that makes sense. I mean, it's a crossover. It's not meant to continue from Star Wars. It's meant to continue into the crossover of Darth Vader. So that's why this is essentially a Darth Vader book. And I'm going to continue reading Star Wars, obviously. I might check out Vader Down, but that's too much money for me right now. But yeah, it's good what we got here in Star Wars 13. It's enjoyable. You get all the Star Wars characters. You get Princess Leia. And for the ending, I guess it's not a spoiler, but right here, you get Darth Vader. That's always nice. Darth Vader looking menacing, telling his daughter what a pleasant surprise it is to see him. So that's cool. Like, I love this book, and I think there's only like one or two issues left of the Vader Down. Maybe only one for Star Wars, and then it's back into the good Star Wars action. So this one, if you're just reading Star Wars like me, you can skip it. But if you just need to have them all, then obviously you're going to get it. But definitely, if you're reading Vader Down, this is kind of a necessity because it is part 3 of 6. So check it out. And if you're just casually going into a store and you're like, hey, it's a Star Wars book, probably don't pick it up. You're going to be lost. I read Star Wars, and I was lost. So I'm not going to rate it down for any of that because it's part of a crossover. But what I read, I did enjoy. Let's see here. Last on my list, but certainly not least, is a brand new publisher and a brand new comic, Replica #1 by Aftershock Studios. This was probably the gem of the week for me. I wasn't expecting much from it, and surprisingly it felt like an image book. The overall plot, think of it this way. Think of it as um, Guardians of the Galaxy meets Copperhead, and Copperhead is an image book that's currently being published. So think of it like that. Um, and with that said, the artwork is pretty amazing. It feels almost like Blade Runner too. It's got that detective 1990s kind of detective where he's just sarcastic all the time. He's got a shitty partner, and he's just like, "What happens if I clone myself? I don't need you. I can just clone myself, and we can just do everything together." Of course, shit backfires. It's just hilarious. It's action, adventure, it's humorous. It's got everything you need, and it's surprisingly heartfelt. Like, there's a story here, and that's amazing. So I'm excited to see what this publisher is going to do. I'm excited to see where this comic is going to go. Just look at that. That's just hilarious. I mean, this is when he's getting cloned. It's like, okay, have happy thoughts. Boom, happy thoughts. And he's thinking of his clone. He's thinking about looking up some girl's skirt and whatever the hell that is. But it's a party. It really is. It's a great read. Um, it's a nice change of pace from what else is out there. It's just nice. It's really refreshing to see a new publisher take on comics. It's always nice to see that the medium is still out there, it's still going, and that more and more people are willing to join. And what gets me more excited is I heard they're getting some pretty AAA artists and writers like Amanda Connor, Jimmy Palmiotti, um, Garth Ennis, who worked on Preacher. It's seems like a pretty good publisher so far. So hopefully this sticks. Hopefully they can keep printing it because this was one of my favorite issues this week. So let me do a rating system before I forget, because I know that's you don't want to just hear me say, "Oh, this was good, this was bad." I'll give it a numbering system. So let's start here with Batman Beyond. Um, I said it was a good jumping on point. With that said, it gets a 7 out of 10, because it's not quite the Batman Beyond from the TV series, but it's getting there. And when it gets there, that's when it'll start hitting the high numbers of 8, 9, and 10. And for me, if I give a comic a perfect 10, it's not perfect, it's just really, really good. It's a great read for me, and it's the best I think that a comic medium can produce. So obviously, there's going to be problems with a perfect 10, but I will deliver perfect 10s, not because the book is perfect, but because it's damn near perfect. So this one gets a 7. Let's see, what was next? We've got Midnighter. Midnighter gets a 9 this issue. It's amazing. Just the grittiness, the reveal of the villain in issue 6, and the fight of that villain here in issue 7. It's one of the rawest comic book drawn, written. It's amazing how emotional. It's just go out and read it. Like literally pick up issue 6, read the last 2 pages of issue 6, and read issue 7. You'll thank me later. Just that first 10 pages is worth $2.99. Just to see that character again, it's worth it. 9 out of 10. Up next, we have Batman Arkham Knight. This one probably was the flattest this week. I'd give it like a 5. And a 5 isn't bad. It's just average. For me, a 5 is average. That's how my rating scale will be working. It didn't do anything to impress me, but it didn't do anything to really depress me. So take that with what you will, but it was just stale. It just had no flavor, nothing. It was just decent. So it gets a 5 for being that. It doesn't propel the story. It doesn't really do much with art. It was just a decent entry into the series of Arkham Knight. Up next, Robin War, part 1 of however many they're going to have. This one, I'd give it a solid 8. I'd give it an 8. I'd probably dock it down to a 7 just because of the hefty price, but it's going to be an 8 because what you do get for that price is amazing. It's the start of something new, so there's nothing that came before it, and it's shaping up to be pretty damn good. It really is. It's shaping up to be one of my favorite crossover events ever. So hopefully it can keep up that Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns vibe, because that's what kept this issue going. That's what kept the ball moving, and that's what kept me interested in wanting to read more. So this one gets a solid 8 out of 10. Next, Batman and Robin Eternal. This one is stuck in the same boat that Batman Beyond is in. It's it's starting something, but we're not quite there yet. So that's why I'll give this one a 7. It's not bad. It's actually really good. But you can tell the story is nowhere near done. In fact, the story is just being told. And there's still questions, and there's still answers waiting for questions that we've had and questions that we're getting. So it's nothing quite as contemplated as or complicated as the weekly comics we've had prior to it. But it's still, there's still a lot to be told, and there's still a lot to be told. And that's why it gets a 7 out of 10. Up next was Star Wars 13. For me personally, it was probably the flattest, I would say, even worse than Arkham Knight, because I didn't understand what the hell was going on. But taking in that it is part 3 of 6, and taking into factor that I do not read Darth Vader, and that I do not read the crossover event that is Vader Down that this is a part of, I'd give it a 7. I'd give it maybe even more, maybe an 8. I don't know, but for me, if I'm just rating it just off like what I've read, it would get probably like a 1 or a 2, because I had no idea what was going on. But I did enjoy it. It was enjoyable, what I read. It's just I probably am not going to be able to tell what happened before and what will come after, because I don't read Vader Down. So I'd give it a 7, I guess, as a tie-in to the Vader Down universe. But then again, I can't really rate this because I don't read Vader Down. So take that 7 away. Let's take it away. This is an unrated comic. Just know that it's very interesting, and if you do read Vader Down, you'll probably enjoy it way more than I did. So yeah, I can't rate it because I don't read the series. But as a comic, it was a good read. It was a good read. And last, but certainly not least, my pick of the week. If you have only $4 in your wallet, and there's only one comic you can buy, this is it. This is the comic you would buy for this week. And that is Replica #1 from Aftershock Studios. It is a new publisher, new IP, new title. Everything about it's just new, and it's great. It's really great. I'd give it probably a perfect 10. Yeah, I'd give it a perfect 10. And like I said before, perfect 10 does not mean the book is perfect. It just means I enjoyed it a lot. I've enjoyed it as much as my enjoyment levels can go. Like, this book excited me. It's got humor. It's got funny writing. Great action pieces, great art, great story. It's got everything you would want from a comic book. That's why it gets a perfect 10 from me. And hopefully that's not just because they're new and they're trying to prove themselves. Hopefully this writing, this art, can stick through the many years that it's hopefully publishing. But yeah, that will do it for this week's comic book reviews. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you did. Here's a look at all the books this week again. Yeah, I'll try to get these out weekly, hopefully every Wednesday, so you guys can see what books to read. But yeah, pick of the week, Replica, and you've got the ratings for the other comics. I'd like to do this every week for you guys, but I need you guys' support. So thanks for watching again. This is Dinoteeth, signing out. hopefully see you guys next week.